2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler. We're brothers.
We're therapists.
We're not afraid of your questions.
So bring it.
Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. We are so glad to have you with us today. We've got another good question. It's going to spark a really great discussion.
All right, but before we jump into that question, Tyler, let's read a review. All right.
Great.
So this review was actually made when I was podcasting by myself. So sorry you're left out of this, but this is from KCB, and it says, "I love how Brannon covers the hard topics that no one else will talk about. No matter what stage of life you're in, I think this podcast offers something for everyone. I've learned so much."
That's a great review, especially off of the heels of the last episode.
Yeah. So I hope that, you know, what she mentions is that kind of no matter where you're at, this is helpful. And I know we can really kind of focus on certain topics, but I believe that this podcast is good for anybody and it's good for any relationship. So appreciate what she said there. So, all right, Tyler, you ready for the question today?
Let's hit the question.
Really simple question that I got, yet I think there's all kinds of answers. We probably could record several episodes on this one question. Okay. Is there ever healing? Kind of broad.
That is a simple question that does have a lot to it. And I would love whoever asked that question to become a caller on the show so we could get some background information.
Context would be nice there.
That would be nice. But there are plenty of things that we could talk about here with, is there ever healing? The first thing is, well, go ahead.
Well, I just want to ask you, maybe talk about where that question's coming from, which is, I feel hopeless. I don't know if things can change. Is change possible? And what is it like when a person feels stuck and hopeless like that?
Right. You think about people that we work with who might be suicidal or in some type of really deep depression, or especially people who have experienced really significant trauma, or might be struggling with other issues that never seem to go away.
Stuck in a relationship that's not changing.
The relationship one is a really, really big one. That's really hard. And the natural tendency when we've gone through the ringer several times over the same thing over and over again is to fall into this place of what we call hopeless and helpless, where it the only option feels like we have to become discouraged. And then when we become discouraged, we begin to lose hope. And hope is maybe the primary thing that actually helps facilitate change.
Right. Hope, I believe, is hope gives us life. Without hope, you start to wither away, and die. Depression sets in. You shut down what you really enjoy. And so when hope is gone, then there's other consequences that come in that aren't just about the topic at hand. So, if you're struggling with an addiction or a relationship that's not changing or whatever it is, other parts of your life really start to suffer and struggle because you feel so stuck there. And it starts to be all encompassing, that hopelessness.
Really, it really is. It's like, I think of like Winnie the Pooh with the character of Eeyore. It's like that overall.
Tyler's always talking about Winnie the Pooh. It's really weird.
The funny thing is I don't even really like Winnie the Pooh that much, but but like that character of Eeyore is like the perfect kind of essence of what happens. Is that I might get hopeless and helpless in one area of my life, but then my overall energy, the way that I start to show up in life in general, kind of takes on that same sort of ambiance, that same feeling, and then it wreaks havoc in other parts of my life where now I can't show up. Maybe I'm struggling with healing from some childhood trauma that's happened in my life, and yet that energy that I carry with me,
thanks for noticing me,
it turns into my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my boss, my relationship with my best friends, and pretty soon everyone's like, wow, like maybe the thing that I needed most was connection, and the thing I'm going to get least is no one's going to want to hang out with me because I'm such a downer.
Okay, so Tyler, we're talking about the repercussions of this hopelessness and how it feeds on itself and perpetuates itself. But I want to come back to the question a little bit here. What if you are stuck? What if your partner won't change? What if you've tried to shift out of your addiction or change your eating patterns or whatever? Like you want healing, but you have failed, and you have failed, or your partner hasn't changed at all. Isn't it hopeless?
It's never ever hopeless, and that's what we feel, right? We want to, and that's when we're hopeless and helpless, and we can't seem to get out of our own way. We can't seem to get out of somebody else's way, and so the natural place is to go hopeless. But the answer is no. We were never hopeless.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate a little bit. I totally agree with you, by the way, 100%. But I'm going to play that voice of hopelessness here, because a lot of people feel hopeless. So when you say it's never hopeless, they might be saying, screw you, Tyler. Like you're not validating how I actually feel. You don't know what it's like to be in the relationship that I'm in. You don't know what it's like to be shackled down the way I've been shackled down. It feels like the day that I was born, there was trauma, I was abused, there was brokenness. And because of that, I have these consequences in my life that I can't get out of. I can't get out of it. And you're here telling me, Tyler, that hopelessness is always a lie. That's not how it feels to me.
I'd first want to just empathize with you and say, I'm sorry for the pain that you're in. I realize that there's a ton of pain, and the truth is that there are some consequences that are likely 100% beyond your control, and there's still hope. And let me explain why.
Damn
all right?
you.
Let me explain why. And this is how I explain it to my clients all the time. This is actually how I think about it for myself with my own struggles. Is that in any situation, we may not be able to dictate everything that happens to us. We can't predict the future. We can't
dictate most of what happens.
Yeah, life is happening, and it's going to happen, and there's going to be things that happen to all of us that really aren't fair and that are beyond our control, and yet they're going to happen. And when we're faced with those situations, I run through a series of 4 questions, and there's always a potential of 4 options. And so the first option is, can I change this? is there something that I can do to facilitate change with this situation? And if I can do that, that's always my best option. And so I'm going to go do everything I can to try to change it. And if I can't change it, and it moves to the second question is, can I change how I feel about it? And here's where the hope is that if I can't change my situation, there is always a possibility that I might be able to change how I see it and how I feel about it. And one of the ways that I do that is I try to look at all of the silver linings that are going on in my life as a result of the hell that I'm going through, the growth that's going to happen, the maturity that's going to come. Those things, I can change how I feel about it, and maybe even get to the point of acceptance and gratitude. The third thing is if I can't change how I feel about it, I can still learn to accept it.
But by the way, Tyler, you always, not probably, you always have the ability to change how you think, how you view it, and how you feel about it. No matter what it is, you always have that ability, right? And so it might be really, really hard, really, really difficult. And Viktor Frankl himself proved that. He was the perfect case study in the worst situation ever. And he proved that he could change the way he viewed something and change the way he felt about something in a concentration camp, right? So yes. I just want to drive that point home, that you always have that power.
But that's the one thing, and he says it in his book, but it's the one thing that's absolutely true is that we never have to relinquish our ability to choose that simple thing.
Never.
And many of us, and here's the challenge to it, is many of us don't want to acknowledge or accept that fact, because that means there's accountability.
We don't want that accountability.
There's accountability in our situation, even when something's not our fault.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is I might want to stay hopeless because it's comfortable.
In a weird, twisted way, the hopelessness feels easier and more comfortable than the accountability of having to do the work to wrestle with those painful emotions and to come to some conclusion that allows me not to suffer so much.
Right. Yes.
And I'm no way am I saying it's your fault that something's happened to you. What I am saying is that no matter what happens to us, we're responsible for how we're going to let it affect our life long term. We're responsible for what we're going to do to respond in a way that we can either grow and move and make our life better, or we curl up into a ball. And go ahead.
Amen. I mean, what you're saying. I have a good friend who was brutally molested for years as a child, and he is resilient. He looks at that as one of his greatest learning experiences. He's just an amazing father and husband and man. And, you could look at that two ways. There's a lot of pain there. There's a lot of heartache and confusion and sadness. He's done a lot of therapy. But it really has propelled him in some ways in his life. And he's just decided to look at it that way. He's decided to have a certain attitude toward it, a certain perception, certain feelings about it, that it has led to something beautiful in his life, right?
That's the definition of resilience right there. And I was thinking as you were talking, one of my favorite authors is Charles Dickens. And one of the reasons I love the way that he writes is that in almost every one of his novels, I'll just reference David Copperfield for right now, there's a character who just gets dumped on the whole story. Life isn't fair. They get abused, they get mistreated, they get taken advantage of. And somehow through the whole story, that character maintains their innate sense of goodness and their humility and their meekness. And it just endears you to that character, because on some level we can all relate to that character a little bit, and we envy the fact that they can figure out how to be resilient to it.
Yeah.
And I love that's one of the best stories ever told, is the story of resilience.
Right. I think of our grandma Patrick. Our grandma, she was born, I forget how many kids were in her family.
There's like 13, I think.
To extreme poverty, just just a really rough situation growing up, and she was one of the happiest people that I've ever known, and she's an example of that. Like she really got dumped on as a kid, and she could have wallowed in some bitterness and some hopeless throughout her life, but she created love everywhere she went. I think she has like, I don't know, like 15 people named after her or something. I mean, because everybody just loved her. And, it's really what she decided. That was within her power to resonate in that energy of love, despite where she started. And it's how she viewed it and what she thought and how she chose to feel, that really created a change for everybody around her. So, all right, Tyler, I want to get to the third thing.
Okay, third thing is if you're not going to change how you feel about it, can you accept it? And people think that means resign yourself to it, but really what this means is I have to accept the reality of my situation. I don't have to like it, but if I'm walking around in the should and shouldn'ts and shoulding all over the place, then all I do is increase my own suffering.
Yeah.
And then the fourth one is you can always just stay miserable. And my clients hate when I say that,
Yeah.
but they have to acknowledge that they're choosing their own misery.
They don't want to own that. They
No.
want to be the victim. They want to be the victim. All right, number 3, I got to reiterate because it's my favorite thing, and I'll say it every show if I can. Don't should on yourself. Should is resistance to reality. Should create shame. Should create suffering. And so peace is found through acceptance. Absolutely.
Accepting and living in reality.
And knowing what reality is and learning how to face that reality and accept it. That's where peace is found. So on to your fourth one. Okay, I could choose to be miserable. Here comes the voice of hopelessness again, Tyler. You're telling me you're telling me that I'm choosing to be miserable when they are the ones doing all this hurtful, harmful, terrible stuff to me. You're saying I'm choosing that?
Yeah, again, I would definitely be more empathetic before I give the second part of my answer. I would say it's really, really difficult. It's maybe one of the hardest things in the whole world to do is to acknowledge my own accountability when something's not my fault, when somebody else is getting away with something. But the truth is that it's still within your control. And it takes me back to like you remember what mom used to say to us all the time, where we'd be pissed off about something and angry, and she'd say, trials and tribulations are mandatory, but what?
Suffering is optional.
Misery is optional,
yeah,
right?
Misery is optional.
Yeah. It's like she would drill that into us over and over again, right? And it's that is actually sage wisdom. Because if I stay in this space, and this could be a whole other set of topics on forgiveness if we want to do this on a different day, but if I stay in the same space where I'm going to be a victim until somebody else changes my circumstance for me, I've just gone and taken the already really horrific pain of the trials and tribulations, and I've submitted myself to additional suffering on top of that.
Right. Okay, Tyler, but so I want to say it sounds so easy. It sounds so easy to be like, okay, I can be happy or I can be miserable. I can choose either way. But there's a reason why. There's a reason why people want to play the victim. They want to stay stuck in hopelessness, and one of those reasons is accountability. You don't want to fail. You don't want that on your shoulders. I believe another one of those reasons is this. Marsha Linehan says that the pathway out of hell is through misery. And oftentimes, instead of facing the misery that it takes to get out of hell, we fall back into hell. I think that change can be very uncomfortable. The healing process can be very painful and difficult. And sometimes it's easier to sit on your hands and just say, I don't want to. I'm not ready yet. This is too uncomfortable. And I look at what's going on in the world right now. All of the discord going on, and the tension in terms of racial tension and things like that. And I've felt the energy of kind of confusion and trying to figure out how I feel about everything. But as I'm watching what's going on, what I'm seeing is some shifting and some change and some healing that's going to come from it. Although right now it's uncomfortable, and there's riots in the streets, and it's a good thing. We're moving forward, but we're moving forward through this process that's kind of painful and uncomfortable, right?
Really,
So,
really. And I'm thinking about even just when I do EMDR with clients for trauma, trauma healing isn't smooth and easy, and it's violent. Sometimes my
yes.
clients will even have physical tremors when they're going through their
Yep.
EMDR treatment. It's like there is something that is hard about moving through it. So I 100% agree with you. And
I've had clients come to an EMDR session shaking because they know what they're about to do.
yeah, it's a
Right?
pure act of courage. It's that quote by Robert Frost that says the best way out is through. And
Yes.
and unfortunately, there's not really a good answer other than I have to go through. I got to go make peace with my demons. I've got to go confront those things, you know, and and that's a really difficult thing to do.
But
You know?
therein lies the growth as well. If you don't go through, you won't gain the wisdom. You won't
You
gain the
can't get
growth.
it. You
Yeah.
can't get those things without going through it. That's the way it works,
Yeah.
And I think there's a third thing too, Brannon, that you brought up that makes it hard to move out of that space and to not heal. And it's that when we've had things beyond our control that have been inflicted upon us, we feel like we can't move until justice gets served or until validation.
Yeah.
And when we don't get our validation from an outside source, or we don't get justice served, we feel almost like we're betraying ourselves, and we're betraying the rules of the world, so to speak. If I were to actually figure out how to move on from this and grow from this, and it's really difficult.
That's a hard cup to swallow. But you bring up a great point. If I stay stuck behind I need justice in order for me to move forward, then whoever's hurt me still has the power. Um, and what really sucks is it might be outside of my control whether or not justice is served to that person or not. What is in my control is me moving forward, right? And that's a great point, Tyler.
Right, exactly. And I want to move on to another question for you, Brannon. Back
Okay.
to the original question. So we've talked a little bit about what makes it so difficult. Like, what does the process look like for healing if I've been wounded?
Yeah. That's a great question. Um, just to brag a little bit, I was talking to John Eldridge yesterday,
I know, I'm jealous,
the
man.
author of Wild at Heart, and we were talking about wounds, and he said, we were talking about how you run from your pain and your fear and hide from it, and it has power over you, and the way that you heal those wounds is you go into them, you face them, you deal with them. And so I think what happens if you look at the full process is usually for a while we run. We're in denial. We don't want to face things. We try to do the best we can to overcome things and put a smile on our face and act like we're moving forward. And our addictions ramp up, and our attachment disorders ramp up. Our depression gets the best of us, and we hit a breaking point. And that breaking point might be the spouse saying, "I'm done. I'm out of here," or you go to jail, or whatever it is. You hit a breaking point, and it's like something's got to give, right? And what happens with me, Tyler, usually when somebody comes in for therapy, what they want me to fix is their depression or their addiction or their symptom. They're like, "I'm depressed. Help me with that. I'm addicted. Help me with that." But what happens is quickly you realize that those things are just a result of a heart that's shutting down. And as you, so then you start to dig and you start to see why, what is actually going on. And you go to those wounds and you find the lies. You find the faulty beliefs. You find the fear that is debilitating, and you sit in that fear. And I do it a couple of ways. I do EMDR, which is about letting go and going into the pain and the fear. I also do some what I call like exposure type therapy, where if somebody's really afraid of let's say confronting their dad, I encourage them to go confront their dad, right? Or whatever it is. So to practice realizing that this fear is not going to kill them. And you can see how that's stepping into it, understanding what's really, I call them hooks, what's holding them down, what's shackling them down. And instead of working harder to get away from those things, you realize they're there, you pull them out and it's painful, and you let them go and you drop them. And then all of a sudden they don't have so much power over you. And the world opens up, and you start to see things that you've never seen. And you start to feel hope and feel things that you've never felt, and start to experience connection that you've never had before, deeper connection to God, to your partner, to yourself. And then something even beyond that happens when you heal. You start to feel purpose, and you start to feel at place in this world. You start to feel like, man, I have a reason for being here. And all of that fear and all of that shame and all of that stuff, that was important for me. And now I have much more clarity about why I'm here and what I'm supposed to do, right? So that's, I mean, in a nutshell, in 3 minutes, that's a process that can take years and years.
It's an ongoing process. And I think you mentioned a couple of things that I just want to pull out and point out to our listeners so that they can hear the principles that you just talked about. Is that the first one is that it takes courage to go into those spaces where instead of running from those things, I have to figure out, and I have to probably build a safe place and way to do that. You know, I need to go find some supportive people or a supportive place where I can feel safe enough to go look at those things that are really, really hard. And then when I find those things and I pull out what you said was the false, we call them false agreements, those false beliefs that have been shackling me down, I need to learn how to not just sit in the fear. I need to learn how to approach that wounded place in me with compassion, with self-compassion, with love, with patience, and with acceptance. And then I need to actually renounce and reject and do all those things you talked about.
It's that process of healing that inner child.
Right.
And when you heal that inner child, you start to see who you really are. Right.
Right. And when you can see who you really are as a result of stepping into and through the dark parts, that is the step into wholehearted living, which is what you just described, where life becomes vibrant and colorful and meaningful and purposeful. And, you know, I'm speaking from just personal experience here. The whole reason I do what I do is largely as a direct result of some really terrible things that have happened in my life.
The darkness.
Right. But now I live every single day with this sense of purpose and passion and feeling like I have a real meaningful work to do. And it's because of how strongly I feel about the things that I've been through.
Right.
Right. And I think the other part to that 3-minute synopsis you gave is that it is rough and it's not a linear thing. And the word grieving has to be included. It's a set of those same stages that you hear when you hear about the stages of grief, where, you know, there is denial, and then there's anger, and there's bargaining and depression, and finally acceptance. That's a street fight of bouncing back and forth between all those places. And I need to be patient enough with myself and understand that process is going to include all of those things.
Right. Yes.
And to not shy away from it. So people who have a problem with anger, it's like they get stuck there because they're not allowed to ever allow themselves to feel angry. But if you've been mistreated by somebody, it's natural that you're going to feel some anger.
Right.
And you got to give yourself permission to step into that without acting on it, but allow yourself permission to be to your humanity of being in that space.
Right. Right. I think we're always grieving in some way. And in fact, I think we're always healing. And I could bring on some clients that I worked with years ago, and they would say, yeah, my life is so different. It's so much better. I have all the things that I just described, right? I have purpose, I have connection. And then we could get chatting with them, and we'd find struggles they're having today. They're still struggling through some things today, but they're resonating in a different place. They're not in that hopeless place. They're not in that shame-based place anymore. They can take the things that they're struggling with now and work through them so much better. But they're still struggling. So there's healing doesn't mean a light at the end of the tunnel, or the top of the mountain peak. It's healing means continual progression and growth, but an openness to that growth, and actually a gratitude and a faith as you experience that growth.
It's a willingness to change the perception from what you just said, that, oh, I've got to get to the top of the mountain and then I'll be happy, to embracing life as this continual process of pain, struggle, growth, and triumph. And as soon as we've hit the top of one mountain, we're going to look up and realize there's another valley and another mountain. And that's the way life is. That's the way life is designed to be, you know?
Yes.
So we look at some clients and go, wow, they've got a whole bunch of peaks and valleys, and other clients don't seem to have as many. But the truth is that we all have those things, and it's just the way life is.
Yes. Yes. I think, Tyler, that you and I are somewhat uniquely qualified to say this, to say that healing is real. And the reason why I can say that I'm qualified to say that, and I think Tyler can definitely say that he is as well, is for over a decade, I really have been in the trenches with people who have experienced the worst of the worst of the worst. And I have seen some people get consumed and overtaken by hopelessness and fear and depression and sadness. And I have seen some people take all of their trials and struggles and bring light into this world. And either side has the power to do that. And I've seen it. I know it. I know it because I see it every single day. So yes, the answer to your question, is healing real? In short, is yes. That the answer is absolutely, no question, that you can heal from whatever it is.
100%, Brannon. And it just might look a little different than your head thinks it is. You know,
yeah.
It's like,
don't
healing,
shoot on it.
yeah. Don't shoot on what healing
buckle up
should
for
be.
the ride. Yeah.
Yeah. Submit yourself to the process of allowing yourself to go meet those dark places with love and compassion and understanding and patience. And the byproduct of all of those things is that you look yourself in the mirror and you start to like what you see, and you start to go, man, I got some confidence. And I love it when I hear this. I hear it all the time, Brannon, in our practice. How many times have you heard your clients say, man, I would never want to go through that again, but I'm so glad I did?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
And that's a sign that they've gone from being a victim down in the pit to not just getting back out of the pit, but to seeing their experience as meaningful and purposeful and becoming a thriver.
Yeah, and I hear that from people who end up divorced or losing their job, or there's consequences to what they've been through.
Yeah.
But they're dealing with the acceptance, right? They're dealing with those consequences, and they're saying that was part of the process. I had to go through that, and I'm grateful now. I think gratitude is kind of the indicator of healing in so many ways. Gratitude is beyond acceptance. It's acceptance to with like praising God added to it. Like, thank you for this. You're doing something with me. I see the purpose. And so if you can get to that place of gratitude, but you know what, you guys, if you're not there today, you're not there today, and that's okay. That's right where you're at. You're in the process of healing. So, you guys, if you liked this podcast, I feel like the content today is important for somebody. And if you feel that same way, then we ask you to share it. Our goal is to help that person that we don't even know, struggling out there somewhere. And if they could hear one thing that Tyler and I said today that could spark a little bit of hope to get them unstuck, then please share it with them. Please have the courage to give this to them. And we really appreciate you listening, and have a good day. We'll see you guys.
Thanks.